great evening. This evening, I'm going to talk about a subject that you really can't find any information on, and that is rectal diverticulitis. Now, if you try to look up any information on it, you'll find it's only like 0.1% ever have that. So even if you look it up online, the only thing you'll find out is you'll see that it says rectal diverticulitis is a true diverticulitis because all of the parts of the wall are engaged in it. Yet you'd have less pockets, but they're much larger. So, I asked on one of the YouTube things, this guy that's a surgeon for 25 years that talks about diverticulitis. And I said, well, could you talk about rectal diverticulitis? And he said, well, I don't even think that's a thing. I said, well, it is a thing, And he looked it up, but he said in 25 years he's never seen it, he's never heard of it, and, he did look it up and he said, oh, yeah, it is a thing. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about it because just simply there's nothing about it. And so I'm going to tell you my story of what the symptoms were, what happened, etc. Now, I was getting ready to do car life. I was going to, I bought my Prius V, had it all ready to go. And as soon as I got it registered, I was going to hit the road and go on my adventures. Well, I got it finally registered. It took a few months to get through paperwork. And the next morning I woke up and it was in absolute extreme pain and was having, like, when you get a cold and your nose is running, like that type of a mucus. It was that type of mucus that was coming out, gushing out of my lower end, okay? And I mean gushing to the point where I had to put on Depends because, this wasn't a little bit. This wasn't like a tablespoon of it. This was just all of a sudden was having this gushing out of mucus. And going to the bathroom, it was like having shards of glass and razor blades coming out. So, it was extremely, and this was all of a sudden out of the blue. There was nothing before that. Now, if you look at it, they say that it has a lot of the same symptoms as cancer, rectal cancer, but I didn't have any of that. There was no blood. There was no presentation of blood or anything like that. It was just all of a sudden, out of the blue, gushing mucus and just extreme pain of, the last thing you wanted to do was go to the toilet because, again, it was like passing razor blades and shards of glass. And so I went to see my doctor, and she sent me to the emergency room, and they sent me in to get a scan, and they came back and said, oh, you have diverticulitis. So they sent me home with a couple of weeks of antibiotics, heavy-duty antibiotics, and I was getting side effects from it. And I found out later that antibiotic can cause people to be paralyzed. Literally, they lose the function of their legs. And I was having some, starting to have some really bad side effects of it. Well, it didn't help anything. So went to see my doctor again. She sent me to the emergency room again. And this time they put me in the hospital and gave me a number of days of, IV antibiotics, heavy-duty antibiotics. Again, they did nothing. They did nothing. They released me from the hospital, sent me home with more antibiotics yet again, and didn't touch it. I mean, absolutely nothing. So the next time the doctor sent me in yet again, and this time they hospitalized me. And the surgeon came in and said, we're going to have to do surgery. And of course, they make you clean out your bowels and do all of that in the hospital. And the doctor said, we're going to have to go in and do surgery. And so the doctor goes in and starts to do the surgery, gets in there, opens me up. He didn't do laparoscopic. He did, from stem to stern, totally opened up, and looked in the sigmoid where usually the diverticulitis is, and the sigmoid was totally clean. There was nothing there. No diverticulosis, let alone diverticulitis. It was absolutely fine, healthy, no problem. Then he found out that I had rectal diverticulitis. Thank God I have the surgeon that I had. And so he had to take out quite a bit of the rectum and gave me an ostomy. And when I came out, I read all the report of the surgery, that everything was friable, which means everywhere he touched it was bleeding inside, and they had to give me blood, and that one of the sphincter muscles, one side of it, was not able to be repaired. So I knew that later, if they tried to reattach things, I would have complications. So I decided to keep the ostomy after reading the report. And I was fortunate they sent it in and I didn't have any type of cancer. But it did take a long time to heal. And so the main thing I just wanted to say about the rectal diverticulitis, the antibiotics and things are not going to touch it. Absolutely not. And like I said, the thing that happened with me with it was an immediate, just gushing out of this mucus substance, like like when you have a cold and you get a runny nose, it's like that. But huge amounts coming out, and then just feeling like you're passing razor blades and shards of glass. So that's how it presented here. Now I've had the ostomy now for, it's over a year now that I've had it. And I'm doing quite well with it now. Now that I've found, it might take you a while to find what works for you. It's not going to be the end of the road. Of course, Murphy's Law. Just not too long before that, I don't know. I said, I don't know how people would live with an ostomy. I would never have that. I told my surgeon going in, do not give me an ostomy. I don't want an ostomy, But there was really no option. It was really no option. So I wound up with thing I said I would never have, and I opted to keep it in the end. So be careful what you say, because the universe may say, oh yeah, you think so? Let's just test that theory out. But yeah, no, I've had the ostomy now for over a year, and it's going quite well. Now, it took a while for my things to heal up, because the incision wasn't healing. It was not healing, and it took a good 6 months that I was fighting an infection, and I had to do packing and this and that, and it was, yeah, that was definitely a pain. It was definitely a pain, but it finally did heal, and it took a few months to find products that would work for me with having an ostomy. Now, because I have a colostomy, not an ileostomy, the colostomy, it's like flush with my skin, pretty much. With an ileostomy, the intestine is kind of sticking out. But with the colostomy, mine was flush, and then it was actually a little receded. So they were telling me for that I'd have to use one that would push it out. But when I was using that, I was having leaks. I was having difficulties with it. Now I use one that comes from China, and it's just flat. And I have no problem with it all. It works really, really well. And then another thing I found out was just cleaning the area, was using the just to take off the excess adhesive. It actually, when I use that, it does leave a little barrier on the skin. Now, when I use the one to, prime the skin to make it, I would have leakage. So it took a while to actually figure it out. But once you figure it out, then it's very quick. Then it's very quick to change it. It's minimal. But I'm just telling you, if you have to get an ostomy, it may take a while, because when you come out of the surgery, you're swollen and all of that as well. Okay, and your stoma is going to change sizes. So that can happen as well. And then I wound up with 2 hernias. Okay, so that's another thing that you deal with, having hernias. And, I didn't go in to have the hernias fixed, because I found out that when they put that mesh in, it winds up failing, and you wind up having difficulties with it. So I've not gone in to get hernias repaired, because it looks like really in the end you can't repair them. You might wind up having problems with the mesh that they use to try to repair it. But yeah, if there is a rectal diverticulitis, if you're lucky enough to be one of those 0.1%, this is what you have to look forward to. They're going to take out quite a bit of your rectum area and put in an ostomy. Okay. So I just wanted to put that out there, because like I said, I even asked a surgeon that's been doing surgery for 25 years. He didn't even think it was a thing. I'm going, well, it is a thing. He said, I would have them do other tests first. I would not think, and then he looked it up and said, oh my God, it is a thing. And I told him about my journey, and he was like, oh. But like I said, I was very fortunate. My surgeon was very good. We discussed it afterwards. We talked a lot about the surgery and, what happened with it and all the different ramifications of it, etc. So he was very good with that. And I'm glad I had the surgeon that I had. So anyway, on that note, I'll leave that here. But I just thought it might be good to put that out there because it is such a rare thing. And they say that it's a true diverticulitis because all of the tissue layers are involved in it, whereas the regular diverticulitis, it's not all of the tissue layers that may be involved with it. Okay. And it says with the rectal diverticulitis, you'll have less pockets, like in a diverticulosis, but they will be much larger and fully engaged. So, and that it can present many times like a rectal cancer. So that's another thing that I found out. Although in my case, like I said, I didn't have any of the blood or any of that type of thing. But what I did have was that massive amounts of the mucus and the feeling like you're passing glass and, I mean, literally razor blades. So yeah, it's extremely, extremely painful. And I was having pain on the side as well. I did present with that, a severe pain on the side. I did have a severe pain at one point. So yeah, I should probably put that out there as well. It hit one time, it hit so bad I could barely walk. I could barely stand up. I had to walk bent over. It was when that pain hit. But then it progressed from that, like I said, to the other happenings. And so, yeah. I hope, that nobody else has to experience it. But like I said, my surgeon went in and thinking it's a regular diverticulitis, and there was nothing in the area where they usually have it. Absolutely nothing. And then found out it was rectal. So on that note, I'll leave that here. And hopefully that's helped somebody along the way. To understand what it is. And we'll see you online.